Update, brought to you by Simcox Advocates, advising businesses and families since 1949. Visit simcox.com or call 690 300. Manx Radio's Update with Andy Wint.
Master Mai, good evening at 5:30. This is Update for Tuesday, 21st of November 2023 from Manx Radio. 30 minutes to look at the latest news here on the Isle of Man. A background to that news was sport and business and Sea-Watch and travel updates and the newsmakers in person. This evening, the steam packet's optimistic over the union dispute, minor issues with radioactive gas in schools, Barclays banks closing in Castletown. The Isle of Man Post is now dependent on parcel revenue and preserving our remarkable stone crosses.
Man Benham for all your business and legal needs.
First of all, at 29 minutes ahead of 6 o'clock, the Update News headlines. Faster Mai, Siobhan Fletcher.
Faster Mai. 5 Manx schools have been found to have minor issues with radioactive gas. However, government is stressing there are no immediate health concerns. A number of rooms had above average radon levels. Isle of Man Energy has confirmed a short pause in gas disconnections for some domestic Isle of Man customers who are in debt. A statement was read out to Tynwald members this morning by current Office of Fair Trading Chair John Wannenberg, who said the OFT would review how many claims have been lodged by customers over the issue. The XL Bully has been added to a list of dogs that cannot be imported to the Isle of Man. Tynwald voted in favour of the move after the recent decision to make owning the breed without an exemption illegal in England and Wales from February. Further afield, North Wales police say the bodies of 4 missing teenagers have been found inside an upturned car. A massive search was launched after they failed to return home from an overnight trip to the Snowdonia area. Hamas and Israel are apparently close to reaching a deal for 50 hostages to be released from Gaza in exchange for 150 Palestinian prisoners. Israeli government officials are holding meetings where it's expected they'll approve the agreement. And Top Gear has been shelved after a crash which left presenter Freddie Flintoff seriously injured. The BBC says the show will now be rested for the foreseeable future. They're your headlines. News at 6.
Man Benham. Contact us by phone, video call, email or face-to-face. We're happy to connect with you. Manx Radio Weather with Manx Glass and Glazing.
Garamaya, thank you. Siobhan from the Ronaldsway Met Office. A strong wind warning out in the North Irish Sea at the moment. State of sea currently slight, later moderate overnight. And the weather for the Isle of Man, cloudy and dry, down to 10 Celsius through the night. For Crane, Wednesday, cloudy with a risk of light rain showers coming in on a fresh to strong southwest wind. Top temperature 13 degrees. A dry night in prospect tomorrow, down to 9 into Jardine. Dry and cloudy on Thursday, then periodic showers sweeping in on a fresh to strong westerly, veering northwesterly as the rain clears late afternoon. Highest temperature 13 degrees. High water in about 25 minutes time. Low water is at 24 minutes before 1 a.m. High tide tomorrow morning, 18 minutes to 7. The sun rises at 2 minutes to 8.
Manx Glass and Glazing are able to offer an emergency out-of-hours boarding up service. Call 491918.
Isle of Man Steam Packet's managing director says he's been optimistic that a settlement with Nautilus had been close. It's after the Officers' Union said it's going to ballot its members on industrial action in a dispute over claims of fire and rehire and working conditions. Here's Steam Packet managing director Brian Thompson.
Certainly the company had reached a sort of 4-point agreement broadly with Nautilus that we were expecting them to put to their members. I don't think they've done that. I think it's a really sort of honest, open approach that we've had with Nautilus. But every time we read a press release from them, it's almost like a different organisation to the one we've been speaking to.
Something that's confusing is people see the Manxmen going back and forth. So those officers presumably have agreed or what?
Yeah, so those officers who are currently serving on the Manxmen have voluntarily agreed to the terms and conditions, albeit without them being signed, because of the collective bargaining agreement with Nautilus. So that's really what this is about. It's about Nautilus accepting the terms and conditions that's been offered with the compromises that the company have made and moving forward for the good of the Isle of Man.
I mean, you say that in the end it'll work out at them working, or the officers working. Is it 5 months the year?
Yes, so because of the way seafarers rosters work, it's normal for them to work a week on or a week off, or sometimes a month on, a month off, sometimes 3 months on, 3 months off.
5 Manx schools have been found to have minor issues with a radioactive gas. However, the Manx government stressing there are no immediate health concerns. A number of rooms had above average radon levels, as Amy Griffiths reports.
Radon is a naturally occurring radioactive gas and comes from uranium found in the ground and some building materials. All state-run schools on the island underwent testing this summer as part of government's legal obligation to limit exposure to the gas. While 97% of the 500 rooms tested were within the legal limit, minor issues are said to have been found in 14 rooms, including a classroom, staff room and caretaker's office. The affected rooms are at Cueg, School Valagilt, St John's, St Thomas's Church of England, St Ninian's and University College Isle of Man. Staff, students and parents have been notified. A qualified radon expert is now making a plan involving minor works in the rooms affected. Public Health says while short-term exposure to radon in schools might not immediately pose significant health risks, repeated or prolonged exposure to high levels over an extended period could potentially have adverse health effects. The results are said to be similar to many other schools and workplaces tested across the UK.
Update brought to you by Simcox Advocates.
Barclays Bank has confirmed it's closing its branch in Castletown in February next year. Arbury, Castletown and Maloo MHK Jason Morehouse says the news is unexpected for residents and business owners in the south.
It's a concern from the point of view that some local businesses and local residents have had this unexpected news this afternoon, and there was the assumption that everyone had been told prior to the announcement, and an increasing number seemed to have not received anything. An email was sent at 4:01, which was 15 minutes after we were told we could put things on Facebook and things, and it doesn't look as good as it could have been. It is difficult, especially in the south of the island. We've lost several banks, and now it's a case of going to Douglas if you want to use the actual banking services rather than actually going out and using the internet. Because a lot of people still don't want to use that facility. I think going forward we need to actually look at options for the south in terms of perhaps having some kind of banking hub. It's difficult because you've got the situation that the Isle of Man Bank have got the penny, Lloyds Bank have been doing things in Morton Hall, so there's been bits and pieces done, so getting them to come around the table and do something together is going to be a challenge. I think the exciting bit is what happens now to the actual building. It's in the centre of Castletown. It's potential to be a hub for various things, and I know the commissioners are looking at it, local businesses have shared their ideas, so I think in the coming weeks we need to ensure that it doesn't get boarded up and left as an eyesore. It's actually used for something constructive and positive.
The future of Isle of Man Post Office is dependent on parcel revenues. So says the chair of the Post Office, Stu Peters MHK, who presented the company's latest statutory board plan to Tynwald today.
Isle of Man Post Office continues to make an important contribution to our community and our economy, proudly self-funding, injecting almost £20 million a year into the local economy through its capital expenditure, payments to suppliers and treasury, and employment costs. Isle of Man Post Office prides itself on quality, delivery, value for money and high standards of customer care, as well as looking after its workforce and environmental responsibilities. But let me make it clear, Mr. President, the secure and trusted services of our island's postal service should not be taken for granted. Our ability to provide postal services, including value community services, and to be self-funded and able to contribute to the public purse, is dependent on parcel revenues for which we do not have a monopoly. The industry pattern, driven by large retailers and logistics entities, is to offer non-exclusive contracts in a bid to push down delivery prices, which can inevitably lead to an unsustainable race to the bottom, a situation not well suited to small jurisdictions like ours. In any negotiations or dispute with Royal Mail, honourable members should realise that we are invariably the David battling with a Goliath. The board's strategy to continue to modernise and compete fairly to retain our position as the island's trusted delivery partner. We've made our sponsoring department aware of a growing threat to our business. If this isn't met through fair competition or alternatively regulatory levers such as enforcing the exclusive privilege more rigorously or extending the exclusive privilege to reflect changing consumer habits, we risk a managed decline of postal services, dignified employment standards and our ability to remain self-funding.
Sea-Watch with the Isle of Man Steam Packet Company.
Motor vessel Manxman departed Heysham at 21 minutes past 2. She'll be into the bay any moment now, on to the links span just after 6 o'clock, maybe just before. Departing this evening on time, 7:45, heading for Heysham, arriving at 11:30. The overnight departure's 2:15, back to Douglas at 6 tomorrow morning. And Wednesday morning's departure for the steam packet MV Manxman leaves at 8:45 for Heysham.
Follow the steam packet on Twitter for the latest sailing information.
Isle of Man Energy has agreed to a short pause in gas disconnections for some domestic Isle of Man customers who are currently in debt. In a statement to Tynwald today, Chair of the Office of Fair Trading, John Wannenberg MHK, says the move comes after talks between Isle of Man Energy and the OFT yesterday.
Pause will give time for the Office of Fair Trading to review the number of cases lodged by Isle of Man Energy customers who have raised concerns on disconnection. Isle of Man Energy has also made a commitment not to disconnect vulnerable customers on the company's priority care register and to ensure that those who may be struggling are signposted to the appropriate support. Isle of Man Energy has also committed to review and update its disconnection policy, which will be published shortly. Isle of Man Energy and the Isle of Man government will continue to monitor the situation closely and will meet again to review the developments.
Is the Chair able to provide the number of disconnections that are actually planned between now and Christmas?
At the moment, the only figures that were forthcoming from the company was the 90 people. Since this all has taken place, 30 people have already been disconnected. A number of them have been reconnected, not least due to the work by the Office of Fair Trading. And going forward, it was clear that on the website of Isle of Man Energy, the disconnection process was not adequately listed. That is going to be requested, that a step-by-step guide was going to be forthcoming as well. Suffice to say that this billing issue and people falling into debt, to my view, is entirely of their own making. And up until yesterday, I think I would have been fair to say that that company lacks a conscience.
How can Island Energy threaten to cut off somebody's supply if their own billing system is still inadequate?
Just to be clear, that the Office of Fair Trading is exactly that. It's an Office of Fair Trading. It is not a regulator. We will work with customers and we will speak directly to the Managing Director. I spoke to him and I asked him that he would personally see every case that was due for disconnection that would cross his desk for his verification. He has given me that undertaking. They are perfectly within their remit to disconnect people who do not pay. And let's be clear, some people do not pay. But vulnerable people, wherever we can help, we should.
Manx Radio Business Briefing.
At 17 minutes before 6, in equity news, IAG, the Anglo-Spanish multinational airline holding company, declined as the owner of BA and Iberia set out its medium-term targets and pledged its commitment to resume paying dividends once its balance sheet and investment plans are secure. On the upside, Coca-Cola HBC Hellenic Bottling Company shot to the top of the FTSE 100 after announcing the launch of a share buyback programme that'll see it return up to €400 million to shareholders. And for a full daily market report, go to ramseycrookhall.com. The Telegraph newspaper and Spectator magazine are about to be bought by an Abu Dhabi-backed investment fund. Redbird IMI said it's agreed to provide loans to repay debts owed by the publication's previous owners, the Barclays brothers, thus bringing the titles out of receivership. If the deal's approved, Redbird IMI's chief exec, former CNN boss Jeff Zucker, would run the business. It comes 5 months after the Telegraph and Spectator were taken over by Lloyds Bank as it sought to recover debts of more than £1 billion owed by the Barclays brothers. Yesterday, the joint venture between the US firm Redbird Capital and International Media Investments of Abu Dhabi confirmed it had reached a deal with the Barclays which would see the debts owed to Lloyds repaid and the news titles taken out of receivership. The deal is likely to face close regulatory scrutiny.
The Stock Market Report, brought to you by Ramsey Crookhall.
UK and European markets were mixed as investors remained in wait-and-see mode ahead of US economic data due later this week. London stocks finished in negative territory as investors mulled the latest UK borrowing data ahead of this week's autumn statement. Now, the numbers reported by Ramsey Crookall at the close in London. The FTSE 100 down 0.2%, 7,480. The DAX in Frankfurt barely up 0.1%, up 15,902. A short time ago in New York City, the Dow Jones Industrials down 0.25%, 35,058. The Nasdaq Tech Stocks Index is down almost 0.9% at 15,884. The S&P 500 in the Midwest down 0.4% at 4,529. In the exchange markets, the British pound sterling currently trading at $1 25.3 cents, €1 14.6 cents, and 22 South African rand 83.5 cents. In commodities, gold's up 1.25% at $2,002 per troy ounce, and a barrel of Brent crude down 0.4% at $81.65.
You've got an investment plan?
Yeah, Mike set it up.
But don't you need loads of money to do that?
Not this one. It's called Shearwater from Ramsey Crookall, and you pay in monthly as little as £100. So it's like saving regularly, really helping us invest in the future for a house, or the kids' education.
£100 a month? I could easily do that.
You should. The sooner you start, the better.
Invest in your future with as little as £100 a month. Shearwater from Ramsey Crookall, the island's investment specialist for 75 years. Call 717171 or visit ramseycrookall.com. Licensed and regulated by the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority.
The Isle of Man in 30 minutes. Update on Manx Radio with Andy Wint.
Fast am I. Thanks for tuning in this evening. It's 13 minutes before 6, or whatever time it is, wherever you're listening around the world, any time of day or night, to the Update podcast. A former House of Keys candidate will be sentenced in the new year after admitting possessing indecent images of children. At Douglas Courthouse for Manx Radio, Tessa Hawley.
David Anthony Fowler of Housedrake Drive in Onken had originally denied 5 offences but changed his pleas to guilty at Douglas Courthouse today. The court heard the 55-year-old was found with almost 50 images of children at his former address of Stevenson Court in Douglas on the 19th of May this year. 2 of the charges relate to electronic photographs and 3 relate to hard copies. It's understood the young girls pictured were aged between 3 and 10 years of age. The images ranged between level 1 and level 2 on the Copine scale. That's the system which police use to categorise the severity of indecent imagery. The gardener also admitted sending an obscene article, in this case a sex doll, through the postal system on or about the 2nd of November 2021. Fowler, who stood unsuccessfully in 2 general election campaigns in 2016 and 2021 and a by-election in 2020, was told he will be sentenced on the 16th of January. Social inquiry and psychiatric reports will be compiled before that date. He's been bailed until his next court appearance.
Manx Radio Sport.
Fast am I, Rob Pritchard.
Fast am I. Good evening. Starting in athletics, a Manx athlete, David Malarkey, has achieved the prestigious All-American status following another strong performance out in the USA. It comes after he claimed 40th place in the NCAA Cross Country Championships men's 10K event in a time of 29 minutes 50.8 seconds. Malarkey, who competes for Florida State University, joins fellow Island competitor Keith Gerard in gaining this status, with Gerard having previously attained it in both cross country and track. In the last 12 months, Malarkey set a new Manx 10K road record in December 2022 and signed for Florida State University in February this year. Boxing now, and Manx boxer Jay Burden has been approved for a professional licence in the sport. Burden has been given the green light following an interview with the Boxing Board in Manchester, with a medical to take place soon. In terms of recent performances, she took part alongside fellow Ireland fighter TJ Fair in the Eindhoven Box Cup in May. She had been due to face Keelan Redfern in Liverpool in the same month, but the bout was called off as Redfern was forced to withdraw due to injury. Earlier in the year, Burden took victory on home soil in February by unanimous decision against Yorkshire's Jessica Tevan. Should the final processes go through, she'd join the likes of fellow Manx competitors Matthew Rennie and Jamie Devine in entering the professional ranks. And finally, in motorsport, Isle of Man motorcycle racer Michael Evans says he's so happy after achieving a top 10 finish at this year's Macau Motorcycle Grand Prix. The Santa Man crossed the line in 9th place at the 55th edition of the event at the weekend, moving up 6 places from his starting slot at 15th. Fellow Isle of Man TT competitor Peter Hickman claimed top spot to take his 4th Macau victory, with Davey Todd securing second, whilst German rider David Datzer completed the podium in third. Taking to social media, Evans says he and the team have had an amazing time, adding he's feeling proud to have represented the Isle of Man at the 2023 race.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
Currently looking good at Ronaldsway, inbound 5:25 Loganair from Manchester on time, the 7:30 EasyJet from London Gatwick, 10 to 8 Loganair from London City, and 5 to 8 Loganair from Liverpool, all showing on time. Outbound 6 o'clock Loganair to Liverpool, the patient transfer plane is okay, and the 10 past 8 EasyJet back to London Gatwick. On the roads, temporary lights on Dukes Road in Douglas for sewer lining work. Hillside Avenue is closed through to Circular Road for adjacent office window replacement. And a section of Switzerland Road in Douglas is closed for construction work for a year. The matrix signs still aren't connected to the DOI's website, so I can't tell you what's happening on the Mountain Road. In Port Erin, temporary lights on Shore Road for draw pit work. And Dorby Road is closed between Niarble Road and Erie Cushlin for train work. In Colby, temporary lights on Main Road at the junction with Ballakill Ferrick Road. They're doing water main work. And in Crosby, temporary lights still on the main road near Ballavitchell Road for excavation work. What are they digging for? The Aracy Road's closed from Glen May to the Shoulder Road for resurfacing. Temporary lights in Laxey on Main Road near Church Hill for gas main work. And in Sulby, the Clanner Road is closed for resurfacing.
Quayside Tyres and Service Centre with 1 year's free engine warranty from Castrol. Get more with
Quayside. Now, are you interested in the preservation of the Cross House in Mackle Churchyard? If you are, you're being invited to a drop-in session in the village tomorrow from 4 o'clock. Now, Cross House contains a collection of Christian and Viking carved stone artefacts, and Garth Commissioner Marinda Fargo says those on display are of international importance.
In respect to the existing Cross House and how the crosses might be better protected and promoted, this is because the Cross House had been neglected, lack of maintenance over a few years. And then the second part of it was to examine options for what can happen in the future. Now, this is going to be the interesting thing probably for those that are coming tomorrow, Wednesday, at Mackle Church Hall between 4 and 7. There's like a drop-in session and plans for a new cross house. Well, a building, if you like, an addition to the church hall, it would be, to house the crosses in the longer term. So keeping them in Mackle, keeping them in the village. So that's probably what people will be most interested in seeing. We'll be there to an update on what's already been done to the present cross house to improve it and protect it, do a bit of maintenance on it, that sort of thing. And I think what we're interested in is feedback, from people. What do they think? Is this going to be viable going forward? It's going to cost money to do. We're a small community in Mackle, aren't we? Out on a limb. But it's so important for the crosses going forward to have the right place for them, to preserve them forever for future generations. And so we need to get people's feedback.
Update brought to you by Simcox Advocates, advising businesses and families since 1949. Visit simcox.com or call 690 300.
South Douglas MHK Sarah Maltby says, "We're letting people down." Mrs. Maltby's campaigning for changing place facilities to be installed in government buildings. Currently, there's only one public toilet with a changing hoist on island, and she says it's not good enough.
I think this is really important. I used to be a carer before I was elected, and I've met lots of service users and carers and families who feel that the current provision of a changing place with the hoist on the Isle of Man of one within the Manx Museum is really unacceptable. I believe that we've got government buildings that should be able to accommodate this basic facility. We're not asking for a gold-plated, gold standard facility here. This is just asking for a changing place within the sea terminal and possibly the airport. And I have asked the same question to the Department of Health and Social Care. He has come back to say that they've got a plan. However, within the written answer, he has also stated that there is currently no indication of need specifically for a public hoist facility at Nobles Hospital. Now, that kind of perplexed me a little bit, because actually since I've started asking questions about this last year, there's been lots of people who've got in touch with me, and I would urge people that if they do feel the same as me, to get in touch with MCALS and please make the case to them, because at the moment they don't feel that there is any indication of need, whereas I would disagree with that.
Do you think that there's any chance in the near future of us seeing another facility on the island?
No, actually I don't. I understand that the budget and funding are really under scrutiny at the moment and under pressure. However, I'm only asking for here something that I feel is a basic requirement. Yes, there is a financial implication to this, but we're not talking about millions of pounds here. We're talking about money that could be found within budgets if they felt that this was a priority. Then I feel like it would be something that adds to the tourist industry, but also supports local people who at the moment are really restricted and have to plan their whole day around when they would require toileting needs and personal care. And I really do think that we're letting people down here.
That's it for Update Tonight, compiled from the resources of Manx Radio's news department. Thanks to newsreader Siobhan Fletcher, producer Amy Griffiths. After the news at 6, Tales from the Sea Swimmers. Tell everything. Greatest hits with Chris Kinley at 6:30. Jumpin' John Barker with a folk show at 9. And Rhiann Evans with the late show at 10. And I'm back tomorrow at 5:30.